Welcome to the Day One Patch Podcast, episode 481. I'm your temporary host, Matt Lawrence, and I'm joined together by Tim Spence, apparently.
I am the glue that holds Matt together.
The Elmer's
all of his
white
joints.
school glue.
I am definitely Elmer's white. That is true. Actually, no, because I was away on vacation, and I am now a toasty color.
Did you get sunburnt?
A little bit. Not too bad. Not as bad as it could have been. A little bit on the shoulders, though, you know.
Do you have like the type of complexion like I do where it really doesn't matter how much sunscreen I put on? It absolutely helps, but I still just turn red.
No, that's more Kayla. I actually am pretty lucky with tanning. I don't like to tan. I'm still absolutely horrified of the sun and its ability to ruin my life. But I'm actually pretty lucky when it comes to tanning. I tan fairly well.
Okay.
I just don't take advantage of it because I would rather not have skin cancer than to have an occasional, skin tone aesthetic for a couple weeks.
That is the scary thing, right? Like, I wouldn't want to just be like constantly like laying out, because I know that like I've been on a tropical vacation before, and like there's people that just solely go there to get a good tan, and they're
the
just
whole
out
time.
there. Yeah, the entire time. They're just there the whole time.
Yeah, like us too. When I was there, like that's what a lot of people were doing. Like they spent the entire week just chilling by the pool, just sleeping in the sun. And I'm like, that is how you die.
I mean, yeah, because I don't know I'm certainly no doctor, but I don't know how much protection that sunscreen offers. I certainly wear sunglasses still and like a hat and stuff like that. Like even in the non-tropical sun of Canada, I still do that, and I put sunscreen on.
Non-tropical Canada, yeah, that's a way to put it.
Yeah. Also, random tangent. Why do they call it white glue? Like, it is white, but is it a type of glue? Because it's not like they have different colors for like different types of glue. Like, it becomes like super glue and like, you know what I mean?
Elmer's white glue. Yeah. No, I think that not all glues are white by default. I wonder if they have like an additive in it that makes it so opaque white. And then that's just like their brand. They were like, we're going to have the whitest glue. I don't know.
Because I guess clear glue looks like it's going to be like a super glue.
Clear glue with that slight yellowish tint to it is evocative of many other less ideal substances, I would say, perhaps, for polite company.
Yeah, all right, yep, fair enough. Well, off the glue topic and on to the focus of this show, which is video games. And we're going to
I thought it was about glue. I thought 481 was the segue to glue talk.
No, it was actually, we were going to have like Elmer's game fun facts, actually.
Oh, Elmer's got a game fun fact? I swear to God, if you don't mention glue at all in this fun fact.
I didn't, because it's a Fallout related one.
Well, that's awfully topical, isn't it?
That's exactly why I did that. So I just want to talk briefly about the making of Fallout 1 and some cool little facts about that.
Hell yeah.
And one that I couldn't find in my research, but I remember watching a show or a video at some point and they talked about it, and I'm just going to mention it, but don't quote me on it. But anyway, the making of Fallout 1. So Wasteland, a game that is still kicking around today, is a post-apocalyptic RPG. It was originally released, the first one was, in 1988. And it served as a big inspiration, of course, for Fallout. Now, the executive producer at Interplay named Brian Fargo had previously worked on Wasteland and wanted to continue exploring the post-apocalyptic genre. He tried to get the license to the sequel to Wasteland, so to make like a Wasteland 2 or Wasteland Enter subtitle here, but he was unsuccessful, and so he decided to make Fallout. The development team for Fallout, which was led by Tim Kaine, analyzed what Wasteland did successfully, and they created what they called a sensibilities document that outlined key elements for Fallout, including moral ambiguity, tactical combat, a skill-based system, and attributes. Early versions of the game even went so far as to use the GURPS system, or the GURPS rule set.
Yeah,
which
I've heard of this.
GURPS, which is the generic universal role-playing system. So you're aware of this. This is for like tabletop RPGs.
Yeah, that's what I know it from. Yeah, that's like old school AD&D shit. Yeah.
Yeah, so like this, in the 80s, early 90s, like that's what would have been kind of kicking around. So they were going to use that system, and that was, eventually kind of kiboshed. And for a while, Interplay had planned to make several games in the GURPS system, but soon afterwards it won the D&D license, which is a far larger property that would go on to spawn, very topical these days, Baldur's Gate.
Of course.
Icewind Dale, which I have no idea what that is.
Icewind Dale, yeah.
But the big thing is because they won the D&D license and these big titles came in, Kane was allowed to they were basically left to their own devices. Fallout wasn't a massive budget, and so they were able to just sort of make Fallout while the team was just worried about, financing and worrying about the other larger projects that were on the go. Now, this part is the part that I couldn't confirm. I looked it up. I tried to get Copilot to look it up. I Googled it for a bit. Not that I've exhausted every resource at my disposal, but I remember, and I swear it was on G4. So whether this is true or not, I'm not sure, but I remember them talking about how Interplay used to make games for somebody, like another, someone was commissioning the games, whether it was their publisher or whomever. They were making games for somebody, and they made the introduction to Fallout. If you've seen the introduction to Fallout 1, there's a part where they talk about how they annexed Canada, and there's a Canadian soldier with his hands tied behind his back, and right. An American guy just walks up to the Canadian guy, shoots him in the back of the head, and then waves at the camera, all happy, woo!
Yeah, yep, I know the clip.
So that apparently, according to, and I remember this clearly to this day, that apparently was the straw that broke the camel's back, and they said, games aren't this violent. At that point in time, it's games are not this violent. What, what the fuck are you doing? And so they ended up going and, making Fallout by themselves. Again, I can't remember who they were meeting, whether it was the publisher or whomever they were meeting, but then they ended up going and making Fallout themselves.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember that. I don't remember what it was from, maybe another YouTube video similarly, but I remember that being a controversial point, was that particular cutscene where there was just a literal execution in it.
Yeah. And there was, and this part's a little wishy-washy in my memory, but there was kind of debate over you need to cut this out and you need to sort of make this less violent. And it was, the creative decision was well, no, this is the world that we made. It's very violent. It's, it's very visceral. There's, a moral system, yada, yada. And as a part of a moral system, you can do really good things, but you can also do some pretty bad shit. So this is, this is part of it. And so so they stuck with it. And that was the creation of Fallout 1.
And it would a system that would continue on into, many games after it, right? It was something that even Bethesda picked up, sort of took the baton and ran with it. The Karma system in 3 and 4, and New Vegas a bit of a different because it was Obsidian, but again, sort of New Vegas is hailed as going kind of back to the roots of the original Fallout games and embodying a lot of those old mechanics. So yeah.
Well, it was interesting too when Bethesda kind of took over Fallout and they made Fallout 3. I don't know if you remember this, Tim, but Interplay started making Fallout Online. And there was a whole sort of court battle over the fact that Fallout Online was an MMORPG, and Bethesda was sort of and I'm just, again, this part's all from memory, so don't quote me here, but Bethesda was sort of WTF, what are you doing? We purchased the Fallout license. You can't just go and make a Fallout game because that's what we do now. Yeah. And they were no, we're making Fallout Online. Fallout Online is different than Fallout, yada, yada. And then a court battle, of course, ensued. And then I don't know if Interplay's even around anymore, but Fallout Online never came out. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny to imagine, right? There's it's the butterfly effect of what if Fallout from that point had not been taken over by Bethesda and become this big, for the majority of the series, a single player narrative, post-apocalyptic RPG experience, but instead had been taken over by Interplay, the Fallout IP. So that court case had gone to Interplay, and then Fallout had become an online thing from then on. It would be very different IP from what it is today, right?
Assuredly,
it's
yeah.
Fun to think about sometimes.
But yet we do have a Fallout Online now, which is of course Fallout 76, and they're still updating it. I mean, Atlantic City just came out in its, as far as I know, final form. They just released that just last week. They had sort of a partial release a number of weeks or months ago, and then the rest of it came out, I want to say last week, or at least recently anyway. The rest of it has. So you can go and visit Atlantic City to some degree in Fallout 76 now, which is something that we discussed with the Fallout show, kind of being prominent, is We have the Fallout show, which is prominent. We have like for the franchise. I mean, we have Fallout 4 being re-released now, which we knew was coming at some point, but being confirmed release date. We have it being re-released for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, as well as sort of an upgrade to the PC version, all for free. And it's sort of a question of like Fallout's like this huge franchise, but the problem is like we don't have a new game coming. You know what I mean? Like it feels weird to be like, oh, Fallout's like in the zeitgeist again, but there's no Fallout 5 on the horizon.
It's not because of a game, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, what the hell's going on? Like it's a very strange feeling. Unless maybe we're going to get a surprise and they've been working on Fallout 5 all this time and that's why Elder Scrolls was delayed, or who knows. Or maybe they should fix Starfield, but...
They've just given up already. That'd be so sad. It's our first big IP in 20 years, the IP we wanted to make all this time, and then it just doesn't do that well, and they're like, we've given up on Starfield.
It's like, well, I guess we'll just go off that. I guess we'll just go use that Fallout license once again.
Yeah. We're going back to it sooner than we thought we would.
But let's jump into our first story of the night. And the first two stories are actually very closely related and reiterate a little bit, but I do want to have a bit of a different discussion / debate. So the first one here comes to us from Windows Central, which is apparently an exclusive. And it says Xbox President Sarah Bond has set up a new team dedicated to game preservation and forward compatibility. Per emails received by Windows Central and confirmed by Microsoft as genuine, Xbox President Sarah Bond recently briefed her team on various topics. In the email, Sarah Bond reiterated Microsoft's plans to build new Xbox hardware focused on delivering the biggest technical leap ever in a generation. And in one of these emails, or in one of the parts of the emails, it says here, quote, and this is about the game preservation stuff, we have formed a new team dedicated to game preservation, important to all of us at Xbox and the industry itself. We are building on our strong history of delivering backwards compatibility to our players, and we remain committed to bringing forward the amazing library of Xbox games for future generations of players to enjoy, end quote. So, I mean, this is obviously good news for the game preservation crowd. And I mean, Xbox is already like a great place to have a digital library because you can use so many of your Xbox 360 titles and even the original Xbox titles. You can still purchase original Xbox titles digitally and download them, and in some case stream them from Game Pass. Like you could stream Morrowind of all games, where it came out in an era where it was like, what do you mean by stream games? You know, it was so far back. Even Oblivion, you know, same thing. And you now can stream Oblivion and Skyrim. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah, you would. It wasn't even on the table at the time.
No, maybe like some random pioneer. Like I know OnLive was one of the pioneers of game streaming, and that was like, I want to say, I mean, well, close-ish maybe to Oblivion, but like Morrowind was definitely not thinking like the Morrowind folk, many of the people when Morrowind came out probably had dial-up. Like it wasn't right. Like, you know, something that you use every 2 minutes to check answers and talk to AI and everything that it is today.
Oh yeah, no way. You're waiting 5 minutes for an image to load.
Really though, or like 20 minutes for some random website to like download its embedded video so you could play it. Like, oh
man, the good old days.
Horrible.
Well,
just horrible. Because
you know what's ridiculous is related to that. I'm watching One Piece again, and I'm past the point now of One Piece when I fell off watching it like 15 years ago.
Hooey.
And it's wild how different the consumption of something like that is compared to when I was watching it before, where literally it would be like open one tab of the internet to load one video, open a second tab to buffer a different video. So while I'm watching the first video, the second video can buffer. And that was just like what you kind of had to do. And then you finish watching the first video, so you skip ahead to. So now you're buffering the third video while you watch the second in the other tab, and then you just keep alternating back and forth like that. And then now it's just like unlimited internet, high-speed internet access to binge as much of a show as you want in a very short period of time because it's loading faster than you can watch it. It's just. It's crazy to think that this show's been going for so long that technology has advanced leaps and bounds during its run, and the consumption of it has changed dramatically.
It is funny, like watching technology grow in a show. I remember two HBO shows stand out in my mind. Used to watch The Sopranos, and like The Sopranos, like they like very slowly but surely, like they went from like an early Nintendo console. They eventually got computers. They had AOL, where they were using AOL and stuff. And like I can only imagine, being a mob boss today, being like, get that internet shit out of my house. Like, I don't want to be like seen or heard or something. Like, I don't want, but back then it was sort of like, what's this online thing? Get that AOL keyword from the commercial. Like, it was so new. And
Don't worry, Dawn, you trended on TikTok.
Like the crazy kind of thing is the jump in technology, just in a couple of years or even a year. I'm watching also an HBO show, The Wire, and we're seeing, people go from using trying to be anonymous. So they have beepers, which are considered old in the show, but still available, right? You can still buy them. They're using beepers and payphones, and then they switch over to burner phones. And the cops are like, what the fuck is a burner phone? And it's like, right. Oh, it's a prepaid phone. You're like, what do you mean by a prepaid? Like, what are you talking about? And it's like
prepaid, huh?
Like prepaid, what the hell? And the funniest thing is they go to the FBI at one point, and the FBI, each of their desks has computers. They have like a data, like a NOC, with like a network operations center, where they go in a big room. There's multiple screens, and a classic sort of movie set where there's all these people working. And then they go back to the police station, and they're still using typewriters. And it's like they have one computer at the end of the row for all the cops to look things up. And in the beginning seasons, some of the departments didn't even have that. And they just started getting it. And it's like, holy fuck, like this is, the beginning of technology. And the show is like, every year, as far as I know, it was, a new season was coming out and new technology was like coming out. And it's like, holy fuck, like how rapid was stuff back then? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Super interesting. Like what a weird like era. But I mean, back to video game preservation. I mean, I just think this is all good news. I mean, I know that some people are going to kind of say that this is Xbox being good guy Xbox because, they're in second place and they're losing and whatever. But I wouldn't be surprised if Xbox is actually seeing, like quite a positive reception to this, because like to me lately, I've been using my PS5 as more or less a multiplayer console that I don't even use hardly every day. And I'm pretty much on my Xbox or PC a lot of the time because of Game Pass.
Yeah.
And I may as well, it's like if I'm going to play a single player game that's on my backlog, why would I go pay for it on PlayStation?
Yeah, it's hard to deny just the accessibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially for something like we've talked about before, where, and like a situation we found ourselves in is like when we're trying to find something for multiple of us to play, it's like, well, we all have Game Pass. So what's on Game Pass? Because we just know we all have that shared library. It's not a matter of going on PlayStation and be like, okay, well, what games have you bought this month? Oh, well, I got this and that. Well, I didn't get that. I got this. Well, I don't have that. And then having to worry about that back and forth. Yeah, the consistency and reliability is hard to shake a stick at. Like,
and it if you play games at a decent pace, like even if you beat a game like twice a year, depending on how new that game was and what the price of it was new, I mean, you are pretty well coming out ahead, depending on also what version of Xbox Game Pass you're using, whether it's Xbox Game Pass or PC Game Pass or Ultimate or whatever. But like, it's very easy, is my point, to get ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
very, very easy. Now, I actually had a question. So they have this game preservation team. That's cool. I think that's the way forward, where, when the PlayStation 6 comes out, sorry to say, but it better be able to play PS4 games. Because games are just sort of games now. Like there's like we're not seeing that big technological leap like we were just talking about in those shows.
Mm-hmm.
Like these games are assuredly they're getting better. Games are certainly getting better. But like we've had the discussion on the show several times and even in person, where really at the 360 era, like you could still go back and play a 360 game, and with few exceptions, you would still be able to pick up the controller and just sort of play in a modern way for the most part. Like you can go back and play Gears, and yeah, you might be like, oh, this is a little clunky, but you're not going to be like, holy fuck, these are tank controls. What is this? Like, how do I move around? How do I look around?
Yeah, a lot of stuff has been standardized.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully this like continues on. But I had a question about this in Game Pass. I was going to run by you, Tim. So Nintendo has their subscription, like kind of like their Xbox Live, if you will.
Switch Online, yep.
Yeah, the Switch Online, and you get sort of like the Netflix library of games that you can, through emulators and whatever, you get these old retro games. Do you ever see Xbox doing that, where they say, okay, if you're at a certain level of Game Pass, you get, every 360 game or something? Like, do you ever
like
see
an
them
instant
doing
game
something?
collection kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially if they're going to shift focus from hardware to purely services, they would kind of be stupid not to. Like, they have all the rights. If they're going to do all the first party Microsoft stuff, like there's a big library. People knock Microsoft for having like no exclusives right now and stuff, but like there's a big library of Microsoft Studios stuff from up to 10, 15 years ago that they have the rights for, I assume. So they could just put them onto an instant game collection type thing. Not even just for Game Pass, but just for like Xbox Live, And I think it's highly likely if they're going to shift that hard to services.
It would be very interesting to see like how Game Pass evolves, because like obviously services evolve over time and whatever, and Game Pass does absolutely have a rolling collection, and at the end of the day a growing collection, because I don't think any of the Xbox Game Studio games to my recollection have ever been removed. So like there's like sort of that core group of games that is slowly but surely still coming out, and then the old ones like still exist. But it'll be interesting to see if they do add something like that to entice new people, like to entice growth of the platform, to bring more people online and on board to the subscription. But talking about going from services to hardware, so Microsoft, of course, I did mention it in the previous story, but Sarah Bond did say, we are moving full speed ahead on next generation hardware, focused on delivering the biggest technological leap ever in a generation. So I wanted to have like a discussion, a debate on that, and what we think we'll see from this next gen Xbox. Like, are we just going to see sort of a standard, almost like a PC upgrade, where it's like, okay, it's been 5 years, 8 years, whatever, whenever this thing comes out, it's time to upgrade the hardware, and it's just going to be, same old controllers with minor changes? Or are we going to see some sort of like crazy change that's actually going to like, be different? Like, are we going to see a mobile version of this thing, or like, what do you think we're going to see?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I feel like I'm not plugged into like the Microsoft ecosystem enough to kind of get a finger on what their idea for next direction is. Like we mentioned before, like industry wise, and like we've speculated a lot on the show before, is that like Microsoft seems to know that they've like lost the race. Like they cannot win the console generation for multiple factors. So like logically, from the decisions that they have made with like the acquisitions of different companies and other things we've seen them do in the past, it seems most likely that they wouldn't invest anymore into hardware. I mean, I guess they're still going to do it this generation, but I don't know. Yeah, like my mind also immediately kind of goes to mobile, just to possibly compete with like the Sony, like the PS5 home, screen grip console thing that kind of looks like a Switch.
Oh, the Portal.
Like the Portal, yeah, where the use case for it seems very specific. Have something like that can connect to a Wi-Fi network no matter where you are, and then you can have access to Game Pass, like that kind of thing. I feel like would have a market. But at the same time, it's like you could also just use like a laptop. But I don't know, not everybody has a laptop, and not everyone's gonna, pay for a PC Game Pass versus like Xbox Game Pass if they already have Xbox Game Pass, right? So I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. I guess it'd be 50-50. I'd be kind of surprised to see I wouldn't be surprised to see the announcement, but I would be surprised to see that they have committed that many resources to something like that, because it would just kind of seem like the death throes of the company trying to be like cling on to the last little piece of hope for hardware. I don't know.
I have a theory that they're going to have this huge technological leap, but when they say that, that's a successor in my mind to the Xbox Series X and not to the S. Like, obviously the S is going to be outperformed by this thing, but they're envisioning, they're comparing it, I'd imagine, internally to the X. They're not going to go like, well, no, it's also a leap from the S. It's like, well, yes, because the X is also a leap from the S.
Clearly, yeah. Like, obviously, that goes without saying, yeah.
Yeah. But when I say that, though, I think, well, a lot of the people, and I have a small sample size. I didn't go out and survey a bunch of people, but from the people that I know that have Xboxes, I know 2 people that have a Series X. one of them's Ryan, and one of them's another fellow that we play Apex with, and like that's it. You know, most people went for the S for the price, but also for the size, the aesthetics. Like there was a lot of factors, like a lot of people like a white console, etc. So the S is still a great little like box, like absolutely. And like we've discussed how the S is like a perfect streaming box. Like if you want to stream from an Xbox, you want to plug and play, you just want to connect a capture card, you know, have like a almost like an office laptop that's just capable enough, and you want to stream from Twitch or whatever, have it on your desk. Like instead of having the X, like the X is not that big, but the S is really small, right? Like it's a nice little package. Put it underneath a monitor, and that's it, right? If there's room, and then that's it. With that being said, so I have a theory that the S is going to evolve into a mobile Switch-like console. Because and I'm reading into a single sentence, to be clear, but it says, delivering the biggest technological leap in a generation. That could also mean an innovation in changing form factor. It doesn't mean computing power only. But you know, it is Microsoft, and Microsoft did make an Xbox One X. They also now have the series, or the Xbox Series X. I think they're going to still have like that powerhouse. This is our big console, powerful, top of the line. This is it. That's like for people like me, like I'm going to buy that one. But it would be enticing to see, because they do have mobile experience with the Surface. Are we going to see Xbox and PC amalgamate a little bit? And are we going to have some sort of like gaming Surface where it's not, and what I mean by that is it's dockable for the TV. It's like a Switch where it's a modified Surface where you just have like the Xbox dock instead of the Surface dock, and it's very similar.
Yeah.
And you just sort of like attach it, and when you unattach it, it's kind of like a Surface, or it's like a Switch that's handheld, or you know, however they do this form factor. That would be a huge technological leap from the Xbox Series S, which is just like budget home console, right? Budget and physically small home console, to, this thing is a powerhouse on the go and connects to power and the TV's video and audio with one magnetic cable like the Surface does. That would be a huge thing. There's also another piece of nuance I want to sprinkle in here, and that is that I've seen some YouTubers, specifically Linus Tech Tips, I remember off the top of my head, but I believe I've seen some others, never clicked into the videos, but they were basically saying like, hey, you know, Xbox, why don't you just be like Microsoft, why don't you make Xbox a PC? And, you know, it's a fair question in a way, but there is a simplicity in running an Xbox. Like there's definitely times where I'm just like tired. I'm just like, hold on the Xbox button, it boots up. I have like my pins set up all the way I like, and I just like hit the button 3 times in the combination that I know to get to a certain game, press A and it boots up. There's a simplicity in that, you know, over a PC.
That's why people buy consoles over computers anyway, right?
For sure.
So that goes, yeah.
So like that's the reason why I mentioned this, because people are like, well, I'm not saying they're saying this en masse, but these YouTubers are bringing up a decent point where it's like, hey, the Xbox is basically a PC. Why not make it a PC? But it's like, you know, it's kind of almost there. But what if we see, and this is another reading into the technological leap thing, what if we see an Xbox mode to the PC? We already are hearing about, and it has released in some sense, I don't use it, Dev Home for Windows 11, which is like for developers. And it's like a bit of a different Windows experience for developers to some extent. What if we're going to start seeing, you know, Microsoft PCs where they just go like, this is for your general computer or computing, this is for your developer, and this is for your gamer. And you're going to see almost the PC like have a big picture mode where it goes into like, it just becomes that simplicity, and it becomes super simple and super easy. So that's another thing that I could potentially see them doing, is kind of marrying the PC in there a little bit. I will say that I think that's more of a stretch though than even the mobile.
It kind of reminds me of like BlackBerry, where they tried to have the device that was like, this is your business device, this is your personal device. And that obviously didn't go well. So like, I don't know. I think it's a concept that might be a little too like niche market.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Because people aren't going to know what you mean. Like if I don't know about you, Tim, but like if someone says like, I don't know what that is to me, I'll try to like offer a little bit of like technical explanation, and many people would just be like, yeah, whatever, I don't know what it is.
Right.
Like they don't, like they're so against learning about what a simple piece of tech is sometimes that they're just like, I don't know what that is, and I don't care. And
I don't intend to learn, yeah.
And even if there's like a cool marketing video, you'd be like, what is that? It's a PC, but it's actually no, okay, I don't care. Once you said that, I don't want to listen anymore. And I have a feeling there's a lot of people that are just like, no, I'm just going to buy an Xbox. Or if you like try to explain a PS5 to some people, be like, no, I'm buying an Xbox. Even.
Well, that's like the whole sort of concept that something like Apple operates off of, right? Is you don't have to ask questions. It's just simple, and you're familiar with the architecture, and it's supposed to just work a certain way with its other things, the compatibility, and there you go. You don't have to ask any questions. It's already established.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, not to say that Microsoft needs to do what Apple has done, obviously, because there's obviously room for multiple different success strategies. But I think that's probably reaching a little too far and overcomplicating it for the average consumer.
I agree with that. Yeah. At most, I think maybe an Xbox, like the Xbox app, will just kind of like boot like an Xbox at most.
Yeah. Because like what's hard to separate sometimes with this sorts of like speculations is you think about it in the way that that you would use a device, but not everybody uses devices the same way, right? So like it's really hard to think about how a device would operate for someone with a different use case than what you do, because you would obviously do it the way you would do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do it the way other people do it because you're not other people, you're you. So it's hard sometimes to separate yourself from that mindset.
It's super fascinating when you watch somebody else use a computer do something that you would do. Like if you go in something as simple as open files. Like I remember one time one guy was like watching me use like the file system in Windows 10 or maybe 7, and I don't use the mouse. I use the keyboard for everything. I like tab over and like autocomplete things and stuff. And he was like,
search for stuff,
And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I was like, oh, like I'm just like, it's faster for me to not move my hand off the keyboard. So I just use the keyboard. And he's like, I don't know how to fucking do that. He's like, I have to use the mouse for everything. And it's just like, I just don't think of that. But it's like, that's why that option's there. I mean,
that's true. Because that person is me. Like, I'm the one that uses the mouse for everything. And I didn't even realize that you could like type in, like if you're in a folder and you have another folder that's called like system or whatever, you can type SYS and then it just highlights that system folder. Like I didn't even know that until you did that. I saw you do that and I was like, okay, that makes sense for somebody who's like a developer that spends so much of their time on a computer like typing. Obviously you can streamline it by making it so that you don't have to even use your mouse. You can just keep typing and hit enter and then type and enter and type and enter, and you can navigate folders that way.
Actually, funny enough, do you remember this one, Tim? Actually, you definitely do. In VATS on Fallout 3.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
RMB, right mouse button, but I used to just go RMB on the keyboard.
And the wildest part is that it freaking works. It's so crazy. Like, which is hilarious because, like, that, like, early, or rather, like, late 2000s is, like, the time of like, gaming for me where I kind of started getting into PC gaming. Like, for me, like PC games were always PC games. Like I never tried playing a game. Like if a game came out on console and PC, I was always console. So the concept of playing like a game that was, in my mind, a console game, air quotes, on PC was so foreign. But I think that was like a symptom of that sort of mentality where people who were like me, who thought, this isn't a console game, it's a PC game, so I have to do things the PC way. When you are playing a console game, you look at the prompts on screen and you see, okay, to do this I hit A, to do this I hit left trigger, So when I see something pop up on screen, I'm not familiar with the like in-game technical terms for PC, like left mouse button, right mouse button, or like left click, right click, QWERTY keyboard type stuff. I'm used to seeing a button equals thing. So yeah, somebody would look at right, like they would, go into VATS and to back out, you click right mouse button. It just says, but in Fallout, right, it says RMB. So it makes perfect sense for someone to go, what the fuck does RMB mean? Like, I'm not a PC gamer. What is RMB? So to type on the keyboard RMB, and it's not even just that like B goes back. It's specifically the chain of RMB on the keyboard that actually lets you back out of VATS. And it's like, what were they thinking at Bethesda when they made that to go, oh, what if people don't know what RMB means? Oh, let's make it so that it's an alternate key input combination to back out of VATS in this one very specific context.
And I used it every time.
It's such a fascinating like situation
That should be a video game fun fact.
less than 1% of people probably even realize. Yeah,
It's awesome. It's
that's our very own video game fun fact. Yeah,
and I wonder.
jeez.
Well, I guess there isn't a remake. I was gonna say we should try the most modern version of Fallout 3, but it more or less just is Fallout 3, just maybe updated a little bit here and there for modern PCs. But I was gonna say, like, let's see if it works. Let's see if it still works. But like, almost guarantee it does.
Probably. What if it works in New Vegas? Because it's the same engine. Probably does.
Oh man. Oh, I have a terrible thought. What if? So it says RMB on the side, but there's like another control above it that says like, I think you press like enter or space or something to shoot. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've done it. What I'm wondering is Bethesda, because it is the Bethesda engine, was the creation engine unable to display keys like that on the screen unless they were keyboard keys? And so when they wrote RMB, the actual engine invoked the keystrokes, and it wasn't them that did it. And I wonder if they even knew, but it's because they are engines so fucking old that they were like, okay, like the engine's like, yeah, like RMB, so like the keyboard, right?
That's a very distinct possibility just with it being Bethesda, yeah. Good lord.
I'll never forget, man, I want to find that clip. I bet you I could, of when they were talking about Fallout 76 and they were trying to get it working like online. And so they hired, I think it was like one of the Dune guys to make the engine like online. And it was just sort of like, oh Christ. And he's like, yeah, I was going in there and like ripping things out. And he's like, I was ripping out like Daggerfall fixes. Like he'd be like, Daggerfall? Like what the fuck is going on in here? And just like ripping like old garbage out. Like we're not a Daggerfall fix in here. And then like, the game is obviously revolving around the character. And I believe the character was referred to as Atlas. So he said for months they had online working, but there was just like a non-player character in the center that they assigned as Atlas. And the world would render around Atlas, and they would play the game in multiplayer together around Atlas. But otherwise, the world wouldn't load outside of like the square that they were in. And he's like, we had to go in and like re-refer everything from Atlas to like just render everywhere. I'd be like, guys, we need a new computer.
We need a new engine. We need a new like base server. We need new code. We need everything. We got to start from the ground up.
Can we call the Fallout Shelter team? I hear they use Unity Mobile. Like that might work better.
Oh God. Build Starfield in the Unity Mobile engine.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, and then load up Aquila City and watch your phone run away from you somehow. Fucking blow up or something.
Just turn into a friggin' Samsung Note 7.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I mean, that's what was weird, going on vacation and going through the airport there and seeing that they still had warnings up. Like, they still had signage up saying, no Note 7s are allowed.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, there's got to be some son of a bitch that has a Note 7 still, right? And it's just, He's just waiting. He's just waiting for the day where his fucking pants catch fire.
That was crazy. What a phenomenon.
Scary and caught on tape repeatedly, too.
Yeah, not an isolated incident.
No, definitely not. On to the final story before I called it the Query Corner question, but we're just going to talk about Fallout, the TV show. But the last story here, EA is increasing the price of its subscription service, EA Play. This comes to us from IGN. EA Play, the video game subscription service owned by Electronic Arts, is getting a price increase starting May 10th. A new report from GamesIndustry.biz says that Electronic Arts is planning to increase the standard tier for EA Play from $4.99 to $5.99 per month, or for those that prefer to pay for a year in advance, the price will increase from $29.99 to $39.99. In contrast, the Pro tier of EA Play will increase from a monthly fee of $14.99 to $16.99, or $119.99 annually, a $20 increase. Now, emails viewed by IGN are currently going out to notify users about when the increase in price will take effect. However, it seems that these new prices are already in effect for new members. So I know this isn't exactly like a big discussion point because we don't use EA Play other than the one that is associated with Xbox Game Pass. But I wanted to bring up a question here, and that is that are we going to see? I know the price increases are inevitable, but are we going to see these game streaming services become like the streaming wars where we got Disney, Disney Plus, Crave, Hulu, Netflix. Like, holy cripe, it was all Netflix for the longest time.
Yeah,
and
no,
then
every production company has their own.
Yeah, and to the fault of some, like, I know there's some good shows on Paramount Plus, but I hear that Paramount Plus is just like, this is not a service that's big enough to stand on its own. And I think I was told, don't quote me on this, that they're actually looking to partner with somebody because they know that they're not big enough. And it's sort of like, just go back to Netflix. Like, I'm sure Netflix and you guys could have a chat. Like, what are you guys doing? Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong and naive. But anyway, Tim, what do you think about that? Do you think that these game, sort of services are going to sort of spin out of control? We're going to get more of them, and we're going to see a huge increase in price to the point where we won't be saving money by using them.
You know what's the most frustrating part is when you want to watch a show, but the rights have lapsed, and so the service you think they're on, it's not on anymore, and then you need to go searching like for what stupid streaming service the show you even want to watch even has, and then you get into the even worse part when you're trying to watch a show that has so many seasons that the different individual seasons have different rights with different platforms. So it's like if you want to watch seasons 1 to only number 1, it's on this platform, but then seasons 2 to 4 are on this other platform. Then seasons 5 and 6 are on this third one. 7 is back on the first platform. 8 is on the second platform. 9 is on now a fourth platform. Anyway, that's
and then there's channels within, like, if you get Prime, there, like, Prime has, if you have Amazon Prime, then you get Prime with ads now. So they added the ads in, so that's one thing. And then they have like channels within it, which is convenient but also annoying. So you'll search for something and it's like, oh, this is only available on the Stack TV channel. Like, holy fuck, and I gotta sign up for fucking Stack TV. Stack TV fucking pisses me off. I have it because I freaking watch Rust Valley Restorers and History Channel stuff. I watch like America Pickers and crap like that. And like they take the it's Stack TV is supposed to largely, in my opinion, be like, you can watch live TV on there, which you can, right? But then if you miss the episodes, you use it to watch those missed episodes. But if you wait a year and you think, well, Stack TV has History Channel, I'll just watch the old episodes, and the next season has begun, chances are those other episodes are gone. They'll take away the previous thing. You can only really watch the most recent previous season, or like random episodes will be missing, or they'll add and remove shit, and it's like, I'm paying, I think it's $15.99 a month, and there's fucking TV commercials. There's full-on commercials, like 2 or 3 times an hour.
And now just imagine all this applying to like a gaming platform.
Oh, fuck me. I mean, the scary thing is like with Game Pass, right? It's like how many Xbox originals? But sorry, I think I cut you off. Was that Tim?
No, go ahead.
No, it's just like, imagine with Xbox, like, with Xbox originals, like with Xbox, like if you look at what Netflix originals were at the time, and then all of like the third party studios that were there, they were like, I'm leaving and I'm making my own thing. What if all these other game dev studios are like, I'm leaving Game Pass and I'm making my own thing? And then it's like, well, what does Xbox have as like quote unquote Xbox originals? Like,
yeah. So to answer your question of like, are we going to see game streaming services turn into these like individual production companies? Probably not for a long time, because I don't think that there's enough large studios that are churning out enough content fast enough to warrant doing so.
Mm-hmm.
Like now that's just like extra costs that they have to take on, like running this streaming service. It's, I guess, kind of like the advantage of there kind of being this almost like monopoly by these larger companies on like the hardware, or even the platform in the case of like, Game Pass and stuff like that. We can't rule it out, because I never thought that like there'd be a dedicated one for like EA, but that happened. So I think if there's another company that has enough content from over the years, like we don't have to limit this to the last like 5 years. We could go as far back as 20. If some of these companies have the rights to games that are that old, to re-release them kind of in the same way that Nintendo does, right, with their sort of virtual emulators. It's a possibility. I don't see it being super likely, just because of these companies would have to have enough IPs to warrant it. Because people aren't going to sign up for a game streaming service that only has 10 games on it to play, you know?
Yeah. And years between new releases.
Yeah. Unless it's something like, Epic, where they have a breakout, insanely popular, constantly updated live service game like Fortnite, then you can get away with having your own platform. If you have the one super heavy hitter game that everyone's coming to your platform for.
That's very true, because Fortnite has a subscription called like Fortnite Club or Crew. I think it's Fortnite Crew, and you always get the battle pass, but then you also get a unique skin each month, and you also get an allotment of V-Bucks each month. So it like allows you to sort of like buy things in the shop without having to worry about like, oh shoot, like I really want this, but I really want to drop $40 right now. Meanwhile, you could have been paying for Fortnite Crew and paid that $40 slowly over time, not really thought of it, built up V-Bucks, and then you just buy what you want whenever it comes out in the shop kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a unique situation, right? Because they really have their own, like, it's not a game, it's a platform.
Yeah.
Right? It's their own unique sort of instance, but
follow first.
It's not. Yeah, and that's the other kind of thing, right? Like these games that are trying to be live service games, and they're selling a premium service on top of the live service game. It's like seeing that with something like Fallout 76, which at the time when Fallout first came out, I know that you bought it, but it made no sense to me. I was like, this is A, so expensive, B, for a game that's kind of sucks, and C, like, are you really going to, like, is it even good value? Now I would say probably it's certainly a lot more than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like back when that game first came out, like the Fallout 76 is a completely different beast. But I don't know. That was a strange move to see for me. I was like, my only thought about this is that it's just a hardcore cash grab. Like the state of the game is not good. The state of, relationship with their customer base is not good because they feel betrayed about releasing a product that, said it was going to be one thing, it really was not. And then on top of that, it was also super buggy and unreliable. And then to offer a premium service that is even more money is like, okay, come on, you're just taking the piss at this point.
And you said at the time too that they are solving a problem they created largely with the scrap box, where like the scrap box is like, oh, it's unlimited. You take all your junk and you scrap it, and it puts it, it gives you all unlimited room for, your iron and your lead and your ballistic fiber and all that crap and all your components. And you're just like, yeah, because you created the problem of having a limited stash. And then they were like, well, no, the stash is limited because of a technical problem, and we're slowly increasing it, which they did, and they increased it quite a bit, probably because there was actually legitimately a technical issue, because people were glitching it to have unlimited, and that's how servers were crashing. People would join servers intentionally with these massive fucking stashes, and then the whole fucking server would crash for everybody. But the fucking stupid thing is they're like, yeah, but if you pay, you can have the scrap box though. It's like, you motherfucker, like, come on.
So then it's not a problem. If I can just click this button and now it's not a problem anymore, then clearly the issue is not that it was a technical issue on your end, but I mean that's business 101. That's a tale as old as time. Manufacture the problem, sell the solution. That's every company has done that. But I mean, Fallout aside, it's one of those kind of unknowable things, like, yeah, anything could happen, I guess, is sort of the answer that comes to my mind. Given enough time, it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to, as time goes on, these companies will become big enough and they will have enough of a backlog of IPs that it starts to make like business sense for them to offer their own individual streaming service. Or because so few players are in the game at this point that are becoming so powerful, like they have the monopoly, nothing could ever possibly challenge them. And then that kind of raises a further conversation of, is that now going to become a problem where it's like they're stifling creativity and the stifling competition, so now there's no innovation in that space because they have nothing to compete against to drive creativity.
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, and you're right in that there's probably not enough unique material, because we're already seeing these separate services like EA Play's partner with Xbox Game Pass, Ubisoft Plus, I believe is what it's called. At least one of the lower tiers of Ubisoft Plus is partnered with PlayStation's, like, PlayStation Plus's Game Pass equivalent. And then I think there's like even like a bit of a relationship with Ubisoft and Xbox Game Pass because things like Assassin's Creed Valhalla is on Game Pass. So like so it's kind of like, yeah, there is like the separation, but there's still like very much like, yeah, but we still need each other.
It's a bit symbiotic in that respect. It's like you can't have the platform without the games to sell on it, but then, you know, these people aren't going to make these games without a platform to sell them on.
I bet you people are also more hesitant to try games too, because many games are like, you know, more than 2 hours. Meanwhile, a movie, it's like, is this going to be good? Turn it on, an hour and a half, 2 hours. That was crap, you know. And then the streaming service got their money, but you're just like, well, that was garbage. On to the next, right? You don't really think. Whereas a game, you're just like, man, fuck that. That was horrible, you know. And that took 6 years to make, you know.
Yeah.
And a whole company sometimes.
And hundreds of people, maybe even thousands sometimes. Like Red Dead 2 had like 3,000 different people touch it at some point, and yeah.
I can't even imagine the project managers. Like, they should have taken a picture, a pre and post Red Dead Redemption 2 launch of the fuck, and they're happy in the beginning, and then they just get sad.
Oh.
Wait, why is this guy going gray? Isn't he like 21? It just looks horrible. Just starting to look all shitty.
That'd be the first time.
Oh. But that concludes our stories for the week. On to the Query Corner question, which is less a question and more of a Query Corner conversation.
Concept? Yeah.
Yeah.
Query Corner content.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all.
I do mind it, actually. I wish I could take it back.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. But anyway. But Fallout, the show, available now on Prime.
The TV show.
Yeah. Tim, you've seen 2 episodes?
Yeah. We started watching it last night, so I'm a little bit behind compared to some other people. But,
I'm behind you.
I think I've seen more than you have, yeah. And Ryan has seen more, so it's a good thing he's not here, so he can't spoil anything for us.
Saw the whole thing. He texted me last night. He said, I've watched the whole thing.
Holy crap.
He finished it. He's like, I'm done Fallout. And I was like, I'm playing RoboCop. Like, what's going on here?
What do you mean you're done Fallout? Like with the IP in general, or?
I hate Fallout. I'm done with this whole damn
this
thing.
Whole thing. Screw it. 76 what?
But I will sign in and grab the free like Prime the free like Prime show stuff on 76 and Fallout Shelter.
Yeah.
So what did you think of it? I know we discussed this a little bit before the show. What did you think? Actually, I have a further question. Did you watch the trailers and stuff with it when it was coming up?
Hardly anything. I was so, it's kind of how I am with like TV now. I'm so out of the loop with like what's going on and like what's popular, and even for the things that I like with, you know, something like Fallout, which is probably strange, probably not typical of people, but I didn't go into it. I guess I also kind of like the dynamic of going into something without having any like preconceptions. Which I mean, I didn't. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I saw on the show before I watched it. And I think the only thing I saw was maybe some screenshots. I saw like set pieces and things, but I hadn't seen really any of the actors. I hadn't seen much of the costume design or makeup or anything. Overall, I will say first impressions, like the show, I really enjoy how faithful it is to the universe. Not just like the costume design and the props, obviously, but like even things down to the weapons. Like there's scenes where people have like particular weapons in their hands that are like just the model straight out of the game kind of thing. Like the machete they're holding is like the machete from Fallout New Vegas kind of thing. So that's a really neat attention to detail. Even down to the sound effects, like the people using their Pip-Boys, it's the exact same Pip-Boy sound effects since like Fallout 3. Popping the cap off of a bottle of Nuka-Cola is the same like sound effect and stuff. So like the sound design, the sound engineers probably had a blast with the show, trying to squeeze in as many authentic sound effects as they could. And it's cool that it translates so well. But I mean, the environments are very cool. Obviously the aesthetics of like the major factions that have been shown so far are very faithful. I was surprised to see how quickly they delve into the real like bleak bleakness, the darkness, the hopelessness of the Fallout series, which obviously in a post-apocalyptic world is going to be a key tone of the whole thing. Yeah, I guess I just kind of thought that it would sort of reflect my experience playing the series, where when I was younger and playing it, I was very into the propaganda perpetuated by like Vault-Tec and things like that. How like, great things were at Happy Go Lucky, and totally I totally just ate right out of their hand in that respect. And then it wasn't until later on that I was like, wait, there's some dark undertones to this game. Oh, there's a lot of darkness in this game. Oh no, it's the whole thing actually. I just was too like naive to see it.
Everyone's a scumbag in their own way.
Yeah, exactly. Every faction has their own idea of how post-apocalyptic America should be, and but it's very cool in that respect. I'm hopeful to see more themes for stuff like that as the story of the show goes on, because I haven't seen a whole lot. So yeah, it'll be. I'm always keen to get more Fallout world lore development, because I was talking a little bit with friends today about the kind of thing that I really like in video game series a lot of the time, and what really endears me to a series overall is if there's a lot of potential for like taking in-game lore and like extrapolating theories on it and stuff. If there's a lot of stuff that's left by the developers up to interpretation, and so that's why I like series like Zelda and Dark Souls and Fallout so much, is because there's lots of lore there for you if you want it, but you don't, it's not shoved down your throat. You don't have to, work through all of it painstakingly. It's just there for those who want it and can appreciate it, and that's always like a really major component of what I'm going to enjoy in a series. So more and more lore to absorb, and references to the other games to look for and notice, little Easter eggs and things. That's my jam. So far it's been living up to that. I will say my only real like complaint that I have is the acting doesn't seem to be like super good. There aren't a ton of really big names in the show, and I can usually forgive bad acting because I find rarely the fault of like the actor specifically. There's also, it could just be that they're a good actor, but the writing is bad. It could be that the writing is okay, but the direction is not good. So you can give it some allowances for sure.
One of my favorite things is the same as you with the series, which is that it's faithful to it. I had before seeing the show, I only saw the screenshots from it, and I only saw a teaser. I never actually saw the trailers, and so I just kind of went in sort of blind that way. And I was pleasantly surprised at how faithful it was to the game. I thought it was going to be kind of like lame, almost like, like a cosplay club, like like a bunch of people like professionally cosplaying and stuff. And I got that vibe for like the first few minutes of the show. I was like, oh fuck, like this is going to be kind of weird, and I don't know about this. But then once I started getting into it, and it's like they go to take off and they're getting in their Corvegas and stuff, and I'm like, oh fuck, okay, yeah, this is Fallout, okay. Like I'm starting to see it. Or the kids like rush over to the TV and they turn on Grognak the Barbarian, and it's like, okay, I'm starting to get it.
Grognak, and they change channels and it's a commercial for sugar bombs, and you're just like immediately in the universe. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, because like the 50s to now, obviously there was been lots of changes, but like a family barbecue, which the show starts out in, isn't that different. So it just sort of looked like, oh, it's just going to be like in the 50s, but it's a TV show, so it doesn't have the biggest budget or something. But then once like the vault comes in, it's like, oh, like, okay, this is like a big set that looks good, and all the rest of it. I don't know how much of it's CG and how much of it isn't, but one thing I will say that I really liked about the vault, and I guess we might touch on light spoilers for the first episode or two here, but but is that the vault is very intriguing. Like it's very like there's two vaults connected to one another. Mm-hmm. And they meet and trade every other year. So they open up their vault door, which is like this big vault door that you think is going to the outside, but it isn't. It's just going to the adjacent vault that's quite literally one bunker wall away. And they trade with one another. And what they do is they trade people to make sure that their gene pool is successful. Mm-hmm. And what I liked about it too is that the game is like the show is like really bleak in that it's just sort of like, yeah, like our gene pool has to keep up. We have to blindly marry these people, and as kids we just like bang our cousins. It's like, what? Like,
Yeah,
like,
but it's
hang on.
very normalized, right? So it really like sets the tone for that universe, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I like about it. It's like it's blunt where it has to be. It's like, oh, I guess this would happen in a small community in a vault. Like, kind of, yeah, you know.
Yeah, this is just the reality of it. That's true. Like when you mention, I'm pretty sure the interconnected vault part is something that they haven't done in the series before.
I never
like,
seen
in
it
the games. I don't think there's ever been a vault that had access to another vault, like by design. So yeah, that's something that is also cool about the show, is that it gives them an opportunity to maybe implement some ideas that maybe they had for games, but they just couldn't figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the show just becomes another avenue for using some of these ideas, because obviously, Todd Howard, Bethesda, they're involved in the production of the show.
Yeah.
So they're obviously going to be able to offer up the showrunners some ideas for like, hey, this is something that we kind of wanted to put into a game, but we couldn't figure out exactly how to do it. And this has become an avenue to do so.
I don't know if you noticed this too, and maybe I misinterpreted it, but there's a part where right before she leaves the vault, she looks over the sort of horizontal elevator, if you will, and she looks over the edge down into the pit because they've used an elevator to go up to the exit of the vault. Mm-hmm. So it's not like Vault 101 from 3, where there are multiple levels, but it's just sort of like a couple of stories. It's not like 18 stories or whatever. This is like this is like these it's like these two vaults are connected via a vault door, and they go near that vault door, go into an elevator, and go way the hell up because they're super deep in the ground. But when she and then that goes to the external door. But when she looks over the edge, there's tons of levels.
Yeah, it's all the way down. Yeah.
And it's like, I think there's multiple vaults, like more than just the two. I think there's like 50, all stacked atop of one another. And they're each one floor, and they're all separated by this thing. Because when she looks over, it's like, why would they look over like that? And it looks to me like there's multiple levels. Like there's other scaffolds underneath of like, maybe that's where the people would run out and like do the elevator. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. I totally don't know if that's true. That could be total like BS, but
yeah, I wouldn't say that I get that vibe from it. I think the implication is just that the vaults are bigger than we think they are. Because when you think of like Fallout Shelter, it's a very vertical vault layout for that. And I think it's partially because you're playing it on mobile phones, and you're going to be playing in portrait and not landscape so much. Although you can do both, I think, for Fallout Shelter. It's been a while since I played it.
Definitely landscape and maybe portrait. I don't remember now.
Right. And it's been so long since I played it. But it's a very vertical layout, right? I think the reason that you have in like Fallout 3, for example, vault layouts that are very horizontal more than vertical is because that makes sense for like a video game. Like if you add too much verticality in, I think the level design is going to start to suffer. But for something that's like a cross-cut perspective of a vault, that verticality makes more sense. And I think that that's more so the vibe they were going for with the show, was just that it's just a more vertical layout than we might otherwise be familiar with. It did go very far, and I look at that and I go, damn, like this is a huge vault. So you might be right in that it's like more than one, but I don't think it's like 50. I think maybe 2 at the most. And if it even was, then we would probably see some sort of delineation between Vault 33 and then Vault 32 or 31 or 30.
Right.
It's not going to be 34 because 34 is already an established vault.
Yeah. Well, like what I really liked about it too. So the whole thing with this is that like this whole conversation is like reinforcing the fact that they've kept the intrigue of the vault. Like the vault seems like, hey, we're just a couple of vaults and we live side by side and we trade people for the gene pool, and we have these sort of like like things that we have to live through. And unfortunately, the one vault's crop got hit by the blight, and the overseer died, and we have this sort of back and forth and yada yada, and like, but life's still good. And then the brother of the main character sort of like starts getting a bit like at his sister's wedding is sort of like getting a bit suspicious. And so he goes and he walks into the other vault because the doors are open for this, sort of wedding thing that happens every 2 years. And he walks in and all the crops have been blighted. Like they're all dead. Yep. It's dark as hell. It's like a ruin, more or less, of a vault. He walks in and he sees the shadow of somebody sitting in a chair, and he's like, hello? And that person's fucking dead.
Yep.
and they weren't a skeleton yet, but they were definitely decayed to a point. So it's not like fresh, but it's not like years and years and years have gone by. And so it's like, oh shit, like something's gone down. And even still, there's still like some like intrigue in the vault. And like, that is something that, you know, carries through in the games too, where you're like,
yeah,
this place is kind of fucking weird. And you read notes and stuff, especially in Fallout 4, where you're in that like cryo vault. And then if you read the notes, like they're from Vault Tech staff that were hired to keep the people frozen. And the Vault Tech staff knew that this was something that the people didn't realize was going to happen to them. They thought they were going into the pods not to be frozen, but to be cleansed and then to be brought back out and live normally. They didn't sign up to be cryoed in Fallout 4.
Yeah, it was like, you know, we're putting you in this pod to, like you say, like sterilize you, and then you'll go down to the vault.
Mm-hmm.
And then there just was no vault. It was just cryotubes.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, in that, it's just got that like misleading vibe from Vault-Tec, like something's up. This is not what it says it is on the tin. And yeah, so that's very cool, and it'll be definitely something that's going to be more developed, like through the show for sure. Like we're talking about this, there could be people listening to this that have already seen the entire show, and they're just like, oh, you guys are totally off the mark, right? We haven't seen the whole thing, but maybe there are things that we'll have brought up that don't get addressed in the first season, and it's something that they'll leave open ended for a future season. But yeah, overall, I would say pleasantly surprised. I really thought that that it wasn't going to be a very good adaptation. I think that video game to show / movie adaptations are a very difficult thing to achieve, because a video game is a very different medium than other, you know, conventional media consumption kind of thing. But I think it just is a testament to how strong the IP is and the universe is for Fallout, that they have so much lore that they can go back on and work with, that and, you know, also having the creatives, like people that have been part of that team for decades at this point, working on the IP, that can offer up insights and ideas and just say, like, you know, we kind of had this idea for the thing, but it wouldn't really work in a video game context. Maybe it'll work in a show context. And I think it's really good. I think it's a good way to branch out for the series, because I'm always keen to see different takes on something I'm already familiar with, because, you know, creative, or rather like limitations and constraints always drive creative solutions, right? So I'll be interested to see if there's something that they may have felt limited by, you know, a video game engine that is something that's much easier to do in person with actors and cameras, and then, you know, maybe CG depending on what it is. But so far, 2 episodes in, pretty good. I might actually go back and rewatch the first episode just to see if there's anything that any details that I missed that are going to be helpful to know going through the rest of the season.
I can definitely see this show entering my rewatch rotation of just sort of like, I'm tired, I might fall asleep, I'm just going to turn this on, and if I fall asleep, like, I've seen it. And so I'll pick up on little things kind of thing. But one thing I do want to mention, actually, as well, is like, to build off of your point, where it's sort of like a different perspective from the video game, is that in the video game, you're always like the hero, where you show up and you're like, and so people are kind of treating you like such. And some people are definitely standoffish to you and stuff to add conflict. But in this, it's like very much like we're just watching it. And then we do have sort of like a sole survivor like character in Lucy, like the person that leaves the vault. But like this feels different than, you know, the first person or third person perspective idea of, like, you know, us walking up to the Brotherhood and being like, hey, I'm going to help you solve your problems. And they start giving you quests. Like the Brotherhood in the games, you only see from the perspective of the hero coming to help them, or their enemy. And then you face them down. Whereas they're like, you know, at the end of the day, they're a very strict, very serious, you know, will kill you military organization. They believe in like a path and an oath, and they will carry out their traditions as they see fit. And we don't see sort of like the grunt work of the Brotherhood until now in this show. Like, you literally see the guys like cleaning the latrines for like a whole fucking day, living in like sort of the shittier buildings while they're in training, getting promotions, betraying each other in the fucking grossest way.
Oh man.
Oh, fuck me. But just like you see like the grunt work and the brutality of like, if they think you did something, they'll put a bag over your head, drag you in and intimidate you with a guy walking back and forth behind you in power armor.
That was pretty like stupid.
I like that. I liked it.
I was like, it could have been subtle, but you were just like way too heavy-handed with it, which was maybe the point that they're trying to make, is like, this is what the Brotherhood is like and does.
Yeah.
But I was like, you could have been good with him just being there, and then as he walks around and you hear like the clunking of the armor, it's like, okay, that's cool. And then he does it again and again and again.
And
it's
then
like,
he gets real close.
I fucking get it. I get it, you know? But aside from that, yeah.
He does like that like power stance thing where you like the person's sitting and then you stand really close to them. So now you're like above them, but you're also like touching them. It's like that power
in their
like
personal
thing.
Space, yeah, taking over the situation.
And it expands the lore there too. Like they brand the squire with the guy's like initials, like the knight's initials.
Yeah. And that's something, again, when I talk about like you say, expanding the lore and learning details about things that I should have probably already recognized by playing the game, but then when it's in a different format, like you say, where you're not only the perspective of the player character and the hero and stuff, is I never really thought about how like medieval the Brotherhood of Steel like bases their like themes on.
Yeah.
And like they're not just called squires to be called squires, like they're literal squires to a knight, and they call the people in like the people who are promoted to wear power armor knights, and so those squires work to help a knight. And I never thought about that in its like literal sense. I thought it was just, oh, you know, they're video game faction who take inspiration from like real world history thing, but they operate that way too. And it's just something that you don't, like you say, you don't get to see that side of it in the game. Which is, again, like a really neat way to flesh out the lore of the world. I think there's lots of stuff there for people who are already familiar with like the games. I don't think it's the kind of thing where you'll only enjoy it if you've played Fallout. I think that there is enough there. Like I was saying before, I think the IP and just like the world itself is strong enough, and its brand, you know, is strong enough that you can definitely enjoy it just by virtue of what it is and not having any previous Fallout knowledge.
Yeah, you can definitely understand generally what's going on. It's like, even if you don't get all the nuance, it's sort of like, these people live in a big old fallout shelter. These people act like knights and they're like a military organization. There are outlaws. You know?
Yeah.
And like, and the military organization has technology, you know, and they're powerful and stuff. That was one of the, man, I don't know. I thought that was one of the coolest scenes where, like, I never really thought like the marketing of the Brotherhood is just sort of like people in power armor, you know, that's sort of like the front man, that's the brand. And so you don't think of it as like, oh, these knights are probably rare. Like they rarely get promoted. They rarely die. And they're like the top of the top, because they literally have a speech where it's like, we need to find this dude. You 5 knights, not together in a squad. You each get a sector. Use your vertibird, take your squire, and go fucking do this mission. And so these guys are going out virtually solo, because the squire, I don't think what he was wearing was armor. Certainly wasn't power armor.
No, it was like a flight suit, yeah.
And the knight could give a crap about the squire. Runs up to the vertibird, even though the squire's, you know, struggling to carry this big bag of stuff. He jumps on the vertibird, bang, bang, ready to go. Like, it's like, if the squire doesn't get on, the squire doesn't get on. And it's like, oh, fuck, like, this is serious. And it's like another side of the Brotherhood where it's like, oh, they're not just tech jockeys. They are, but they're also not. Like, they're being, like you said, like the medieval whatever, but they're being a very strict military organization. And you never see that as the player. The player, it's always like, oh, thank you for saving us, or thank you for being such a help. Here's some power armor. You're now a knight, you know? Yeah. Like you don't do the grunt work.
Yeah. Welcome to our like organization. Here's the training to wear our most like valuable resource that we have.
Yeah.
That we spend all of our resources like maintaining and all this shit. We only give it to our most highly respected members. No, you just get to fast track that.
Yeah, because you helped us with 3 quests that our knights couldn't. It's like, is there anything your knights can't do? You know? Like, what do you mean? And like, I get that impression from this Brotherhood so far, is like, it feels like the knights probably themselves feel invincible, especially because, you know, like, obviously the armor is like a pre-war weapon, and the enemy used to have power armor, but the average Wastelander doesn't have power armor. So you basically are invincible walking around you're walking around as a tank.
Which is what the suit was like supposed to be, right? Like it was supposed to be a one-man mobile like tank suit. It's like what power armor was designed to be. So it certainly lives up to that.
I'm excited. I'm a Brotherhood man in the game. I know they're scummy, but I mean it's Fallout. We're all scummy, so I join them every time. I join them, do their bidding. It's horrible, but sometimes you got to do it. Protect humanity from its worst enemy itself, as Elder Maxon said in 4.
Yeah, I mean, and they touch on it in the show too. I think one character is like directly quoted as saying something like, "Everyone's got their own idea of how to save the world," and that it really is just a summary of like the factions in Fallout. Is that nobody's a good guy? They're all just doing what they think is not the right thing, but like what needs to be done, and it's just a matter of picking your poison in the games, right? Of who you want to side with.
Yeah, like it's even to the point where like the trainees, they bring the one guy aside and they're like, "We gave your life purpose." Like all he was doing all day was cleaning latrines. He got beat up in a lecture class. He got punched right in the face.
He's getting bullied constantly. Yeah,
by the instructors, not by other students or whatever. These aren't little kids. These are like quote unquote mature-ish, I suppose. Mature-ish. Yeah, they're mature-ish, like young adults, and like the Brotherhood is like abusing them and whatever. And then if they were to question it, it's like, you gave you purpose. Like, what were you else going to do? Be like sitting around in the wasteland, like being a loser?
It's literally a cult. It's just like, literally a cult.
What are you gonna be? What are you gonna be, lame as hell and just living in a hovel somewhere? Like,
what are you gonna do? Leave? We've given you everything. You can leave if you want to, but where are you gonna go?
Where are you gonna go without? Where are you gonna go and have this status? It's like, yeah, latrine cleaner.
Actual cult behavior. But anyway,
that's the Brotherhood of Steel. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to continue watching it. I usually, like, lately I've been trying to like space out my watching a show just because I seem to enjoy it more, but I may try to get through it like a bunch of it this week, just because I'm starting to accidentally see like the odd like scene on fucking TikTok where I'm like, I don't recognize this, swipe up real quick, but I know eventually I'm going to see a damn spoiler like right off the hop and be like, well, all right.
Yeah.
Like a character's going to die or something and be like, well, okay. Which is going to be unfortunate. So I may fast track it like I had to do to Red Dead 2, which is a little unfortunate, but
yeah.
But I think unless you have anything else to add, Tim, I think that concludes this episode.
I think so.
Awesome. Well, how do we conclude this thing? What does Ryan do? Where can the fine folks find you, Tim?
I was gonna say, normally we talk about what we've been playing, but I don't have anything to add for that aside from just saying that I was away for a week on vacation, and so coming back with just the hype around Fallout, I started playing Fallout New Vegas. I don't really know if I'm gonna be like going all the way through it because I've played that game so many goddamn times. But just to be in the zeitgeist of all the Fallout content, I'm doing a little bit of Fallout New Vegas. Last time I played it, so I was gonna say the last time I played it, I had some like quality of life mods installed, like being able to sprint and just expanding some of the perk system and things like that. I guess I just never uninstalled that stuff, so I accidentally realized that I could sprint while I was playing it today.
Oh.
And I was like, I guess these mods are still installed. And in true Fallout fashion, the game only crashed 3 times in a 2-hour play session. So trying to get back to the old habit of hitting that quick save button all the time. But that's been it. It was just one session of playing Fallout New Vegas. So if you're into Fallout New Vegas, twitch.tv/the sidetrack, where we are probably going to be talking a lot about Fallout over the next couple of weeks.
What I was going to actually mention, Tim, is like what's interesting is, you know how the modders have like the unofficial patches.
Mm-hmm.
What I find interesting is like there's all these unofficial patches and it's like, oh, Bethesda leaves it to the modders to fix it. But one thing they can never seem to fix is the crashes.
I mean, there are definitely a lot of stability mods and patches that have been made. I just haven't downloaded them.
Oh, those weren't a part of your like quality of life stuff at all.
I don't know what I installed before.
So this thing's just been installed for like a year or like whatever.
Yeah, it's like 2 years ago I think I installed some of these mods and I just never uninstalled them. So I don't know what my New Vegas game state actually exists in. I might still have like the Tale of Two Wastelands mod installed, which is where the entirety of Fallout 3 is in Fallout New Vegas as well. I don't know if I have it. I'm kind of not keen to look into it either. I kind of just want to be surprised and see if stuff pops up that I'm just like, oh, is that what's going on here? Okay, cool.
You just end up in Fallout 3, end up in like Point Lookout or something like that.
Yeah. You know what's awful too? I never finished Point Lookout.
You never finished Point Lookout?
Never. I've done like every other Fallout 3 DLC. I just never finished Point Lookout. I don't know why that one of all things, but that's the one I never did.
Were you bored of it, or like?
I think I just didn't do it. I just never went there.
You never saw Culvert Mansion, like the boardwalk.
Nope.
The guy that wants like that book made of skin or some gross ass thing.
Nope, definitely never did that.
Man, because there's some stuff in Point Lookout that I used to like, where like as a kid and even now I really like DLC that used to like add new parts of the map. So like going to like a whole new map, it's like, okay, cool. Obviously it's DLC, so it's more sparse than it's more sparse than, a normal sort of like the base game that Fallout is. But the thing I noticed was there's a lot of like little things you could do in that game. Like, for example, you could find a note somewhere that said that they were looking to replace the light in the lighthouse and that the truck was on its way. And it was like at like its previous stop was like the military base. You can actually find the military base, find the truck, and there's one light left. There's no quest marking any of this. You can find the light, go up in the lighthouse and light the lighthouse up. And you can do a bunch of like, there's a bunch of little things like that. Like there's like a bank in it where it was like a state-of-the-art voice key thing where people would have to like play a holotape of their voice to open up their thing. So when you're walking around, going through apartments, going through houses, whatever, you can find their voice keys. And then you can go over to the bank, play it in front of the thing, and then the vaults open up.
That's really cool.
That's Point Lookout, because Point Lookout does have some side quests, no doubt. Like Pilk's Safari. Oh, it has the first arena in Fallout ever, I think, or at least in Bethesda Fallout. It has like the first arena called like Pilk's Safari. And what's really weird about it is the whole, like, you're on this island, so it's like this elevated sort of like, whatever, like you're on a big rock, right, surrounded by the ocean, and it's like over the edge. Like you have to like kind of like look down, and it's like, oh, what the fuck? There's like a ledge down there with like a torch or something. And you jump down there and you go inside, and then you can face like waves of ghouls for money, and you can choose like how difficult you want it to be and stuff like that. And then that of course gets like carried over into Fallout New Vegas, like with the arena and the like the sewer system or whatever. You should play Point Lookout. Like we're just determining that you should play Point Lookout.
Apparently so.
Pretty good. I guess for me, since I completely forgot we do what we're playing. What the hell did I do this week?
RoboCop?
I've been playing RoboCop, yeah. I've been playing RoboCop quite a bit. That combat is like super satisfying. Like you can just pick like there's bikers that are like driving at you on bikes. You can literally just pick them up off their bikes and just like whip them at other bikers. You can pick up their bikes and whip those at other bikers. Picking up like computer screens, like the big 80s CRT computer monitors, and you can whip that at people. Dumpsters and all kinds of crap. And you told me today, I sent you a clip. You're like, you have the bloody mess perk on, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, I kind of do, because my gun literally has a thing where I've upgraded it for damage and stuff. And one of like the side perks of it is that it enhances the gore of like my kills.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, you're right. I kind of do. But other than that, a weird one. I've been playing Frontlines Fuel of War on Xbox 360.
What the hell is that?
From the makers of Homefront.
Okay.
Like the original, from the original Homefront, Chaos Studios made a few games. They're dead now, but they made this multiplayer game where you move up and do objectives, like capture the radio post, capture this, capture that, and then you push up like a front line. And the whole point was like the two enemy teams would face each other back and forth. I've always wanted to try it because I heard such mixed things, good, bad, whatever. But I was a COD guy back then and never played it. So I looked it up and had a campaign. This was a long time ago, and I bought it for like $2 or $5 or something. And so I just like was randomly, it was just on my console because I installed it when I bought it because it's tiny. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can install this. And it's just like, it's kind of like the multiplayer mode, but it is more like linear, and they tell you where to go and stuff like that. it's pretty fun. Like it's like I'm surprised it didn't do better back in the day, but I think COD was just too dominant back then.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of those shooters that are like that, where they're pretty good in their own right. It's just they were so overshadowed by like every other bigger shooter at the time.
And actually, fucking controls are the weirdest thing ever. It's like you aim with clicking in the right stick, you run with the right bump, and you like, or no, I think you might run with the left bump, and you reload with the right bump. It's super bizarre. And so that does not do it any favors for sure.
Like we were talking about how gaming is like established now. Like we don't need to reinvent the wheel with control schemes, and like give people like have the default control scheme for a shooter that everyone knows, and then like give people the option to remap things as they see fit for like accessibility reasons. But beyond that, like we don't need to reinvent the wheel with this.
And this is during the COD era. Like they could have just copied the fucking COD controls. It's like, no, we have a better. It's like it's not better though. Like it's not. It's sorry, boys. And my last thing I did was I started the Canadian campaign on Call of Duty on the PSP, and the fucking guys have Canadian accents.
Hell yeah!
There's a fucking guy that's just like straight up a Newfie.
That's
and
great.
I was like, hang on. I'm like, yeah, this is different than the American campaign. I'm like, these guys actually sound like fucking Canadians. Like
they were like, we gotta fully lean into this Canadian thing. Like, what's the most stereotypical shit that we can put into this campaign? We gotta have somebody from the East Coast.
There's definitely a guy from the East Coast, like Newfie, like I said, and then there's somebody who sounds like he's more like kind of like our area, like Toronto area, where it's like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like the accent kind of like fades and then gets deeper as you go to Alberta again or something. I don't know. I don't know how to describe accents across Canada too well, but like there's definitely like area accents to an extent.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And so like because I'm like listening to these guys talk, and I'm like, this kind of sounds familiar. Like it's kind of like from where I live. Like,
wait a minute,
hang on, these guys are Canadian.
The call's coming from inside the building.
But I mean, I'm impressed with that for a PSP game. Like, what the fuck?
They really pulled out all the stops by Check's notes. Hiring a Canadian voice actor.
a few Canadian.
A few. Sorry. I didn't even realize that there were that many Canadian voice actors.
Well, I think Call of Duty 3, well, no, it does have a Canadian campaign, and I'm pretty sure the main dude is just British.
God.
So
they failed the assignment. They did not understand. Everyone in the Commonwealth is the same, right? Canada and Australia are just basically the same country.
Funny enough, I just played an Australian campaign in Battlefield 1.
There you go.
So I'm experiencing all the fronts of war across time, I guess. And then also a future from a game studio that no longer exists.
Should slap that on the box art.
Experiencing... Wait, I don't even know what I said.
I forget.
Play back the tape. You forget already.
Yeah. It's okay, we move forward.
Yeah, we move on, we move forward, we improvise, adapt, overcome.
Thanks, Bear Grylls.
Or my character in Fallout 4 survival mode, which was barely Grills. And I got my ass beat.
Maybe not next time, though. Maybe the overhaul will do you some good.
Just makes it easy.
Yeah.
just makes it simple for me. But yeah, so we also stream. Tim, you and I streamed Farming Simulator, and hopefully Ryan will join us when his internet's fixed. Real brief thoughts. What did you think about Farming Simulator?
Oh my god, that game's so complicated. Holy crap. And also, like, tilling sucks. I spent like an hour and a half tilling one field. Like, literally nonstop. All I did was drive back and forth. The simulator games are like, if you know what you're doing, they're really good, like, chill games, like podcast games, like, just to, idle away the hours, right? But if you don't know what you're doing, it's biting off so much right off the bat, and it's like, I would love for there to even just be the semblance of a tutorial for this. Like, maybe we should have gone into like a single player game beforehand to try to figure out how the game works. But like, man, jumping into multiplayer is like, they just assume that you have a PhD in this stuff, and you're just like, yeah, you're an actual farmer. Actually, you know what you're doing. So here's the playground. Go have fun.
What was that thing that I found? Like the Giggy Piggy or some fucking thing? The hell was that thing that I was like trying to connect, and it ended up being a weight for the front of the tractor?
Weight on the front of the tractor, yeah. The tin bopper. I don't remember what it's called.
And
Something like that.
You're the one that called it. You're like, maybe it goes on the front of your tractor. I was like, oh fuck, maybe. And like go to connect. It's like, holy fuck, it connects.
Like that's our level of familiarity with this game. Is like I don't know farm equipment. I don't know these game mechanics. I am literally tossing myself in the deep end here, and we're just figuring it out as we go.
I wasted so much goddamn fertilizer. So much goddamn fertilizer, dude.
At least you get reimbursed for it, though, because on a job where the paycheck was only going to be €16,000, you spent $18,000 on fertilizer. So, like, if we didn't get reimbursed, then we would have been down $2,000 just for taking the job. Like,
you were out in the field that whole time. I was fucking up like 4 jobs, but
you did 3 contracts in the time that it took me to do 1 contract to till a field.
And we're still down because I bought a truck, like on the side. I bought a truck.
And then you bought a truck
to drive out to see you.
So we're still at like 1.4 mil. Like we should probably at this point just actually start our own farm. But I thought, let's do some contracts so we can figure out how this game even works before we start to do our own thing. I am horrified of trying to like learn what seeds to buy when to plant for what planting season, and then I guess you just hope you get good weather for it to grow. There are so many systems to keep on top of in this game. It's almost abysmal.
There was a thread on Reddit. You and I couldn't figure out how to get fertilizer, and we were like, "Where the fuck do you get this fertilizer?" And it's like, "It's at the shop." I'm like, "What shop?" And it's like, "It's at the farm shop." So I'm checking the map, can't find the farm shop. I Google it, and everyone's just like, "Yeah, just go to the farm shop." I'm like, I'm gonna flip. Like, where the hell is this farm shop? And there's this guy. He's like, I couldn't figure out how the hell to where the hell the shop was. I had no idea the shop was in the game. And my son comes over and says, "Just go to the shop, dude." And he's like, "Well, sorry, son, there's no shop button in the tutorial. You're going to have to show me how it works." And he's like, "I don't know how the hell you young kids do it." But he's like, "I had no idea there was a fucking shop in this game." And I was like, I'm in the same boat. I couldn't find the damn shop.
Yep. Turns out for those Farming Simulator 22 enthusiasts, or not enthusiasts, actually newbies like us, hit P on your keyboard. It's a menu to pull up. It's a shop menu. Would have been nice if the game told us that. It didn't. So
and we bought pallets and pallets, and we didn't know where they were.
That one made sense, though. That one made sense being at the farm, like depot or whatever it is, because every time you start a contract, all your like rented equipment is always there. So that checks out. But
that's true. But it should be probably called farm shop.
At least you can fast travel there.
Correct, and rent the equipment. So we're not like, do we buy the Mexitrex 2000?
Yeah, buy this one. This is a spreader. It's not a seeder, and you can put some fertilizers in some spreaders, but you can't put all fertilizers in. And you got to make sure the kind of fertilizer that you have for the contract lines up with the spreader that you're using, that you're renting. So yeah, it's a logistical nightmare. And some people are into that. If you like Excel spreadsheets, check out Farming Sim 22.
Imagine if I had bought $15,000 worth, or $18,000, I guess it was, of the wrong type of thing for the spreader.
The wrong fertilizer, yeah. That would have been really unfortunate. I don't know if that would have been reimbursed. It probably wouldn't have been.
It would have been a fucking nightmare. Like an actual fucking disaster.
Person who pays you for the job is like, why the fuck did you bring 4 tons of liquid fertilizer? I said solid. The person who hired is just like, I don't know. I saw fertilizer on the bag and I just bought it.
It's a fertilizer plus on the side. Just give you an idea of like, this game should have added NPCs where literally they do that. You show up and like, what in the hell are you doing, son? You can't be bringing a goddamn spreader to a...
I told you to till this field.
You tilled somebody else's field accidentally and it fucking told you.
Just took the corner off. It's fine. They didn't need that wheat.
This is a rental for the contract.
It doesn't. Yeah, pro tip: it doesn't want you tilling the roads, so don't do that. Make sure to hit V on your keyboard to raise and lower that till, so you don't scuff up those blades on the highway.
And you can rent a train for $1,000.
Figured out what we do for that, yeah.
Or why?
Figure it out eventually. piece by piece. Anyway,
That's Farming
twitch.tv/
Simulator.
day1patchmedia, Wednesday nights, usually around 8:30, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's a struggle.
The stream or the farming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just doing our best out here. I don't know what you want from me.
All right. Well, that concludes this episode. You've already shared your link, I think. We've shared ours.
Yeah.
I'm going to get off this chair that hurts my ass. And we're signing off, everybody.
And that doesn't have anything to do with the podcast, actually.
Oh. Oh, dear.
Goodbye.
Peace.